Hey YouTube, what's going on? So today we're going to be bringing a Venti showcase. First, let's go over his stats and gears. He's currently on a high attack build with 342 elemental mastery build. Low crit rate, high crit damage, enough energy recharge, minimum bonus damage. Weapon right now he's currently using stringless. That as a secondary stat gives you elemental mastery and increases your elemental and skill and burst by 48%. It's a max refinement of 5 4-star build. Set that he's running is the Viridescent set, which increases the Nemo damage and as well as increase your Swirl damage by 60%. And any element that it fuses with will reduce that element by 40%. So the defense of the enemy is by 40% for 10 seconds. Constellation none. Talent, he's currently on a 467. As far as his artifacts goes, there's a lot of elemental mastery again, crit damage and energy recharge. Those are the three stats I'm going for with him. This one unfortunately happened to roll mostly into defense. Again, not the greatest, has a little bit of crit chance, but a bunch of defense again. Alright, so that's the first build. Ton of elemental mastery. So the setup for Venti is pretty straightforward. You basically imbue his Swirl or his elemental burst with another element, and he's going to continuously proc Swirl. So one test it out on this Rune Guard here. So he's down in the ultimate. Use Keqing. So that's what basically Venti does. And if he gets an elemental immune status with his talent here, gives him basically another 15 energy to all characters of that element. So Keqing got extra 15 energy back for that, and Venti also gets 15 energy after his ultimate ends. So that's why he's basically just a whole one-man army, just perma CC, just constant damage. Electro status, Swirl, that's Swirl. And that purple damage scales off your elemental mastery. Just so you know, elemental mastery there, the swirls, from the swirls they cannot crit. Grouping up the enemies in like one small area is what Venti does best. So all he has to do is just press his elemental burst, everybody gathers, mix it up, and the swirls goes off. Well, same thing we'll try again with the cryo here. Hits them, they will trigger the swirls. Even though it does immune damage, the swirl is still constantly slashing them up in there. And that swirl is scaling off his elemental mastery. That little extra Nemo damage. But if they weren't immune to cryo, they would be doing additional damage from the cryos. So Venti is just basically a one-man army. Like, there's no character in the game that can do what he does. So his ultimate is slashing up for 1,937 when it crits. And because they have the electro status on them, even if I hit Swirl on it, it's not going to do any damage because they're going to be basically immune to that. So So that is basically what Venti does and why he's so good in the Abyss for anything that gathers these like trash balls. Again, round 2. Because the Venti only has like less than 20% crit chance, so he's not going to be critting as much, but if he does, he'll basically be doing double damage because he has over 100% or close to 100% crit damage. But again, this build is focused towards swirls and elemental reaction. So elemental mastery is going to make that additional element that it infuses with. It's gonna spread and tick. Venti is doing around 6,100 damage on a non-crit swirl. 11,000 on a crit, but my Venti's build here, he only has 40% crit chance, so I can't rely on that. So I'm going to rely basically on his elemental mastery when he's going to infuse this swirl and reproc all the elemental. So say they have an elemental like electrical on them, Venti's gonna swirl that, it does 1,898 damage. So 1,700 attack at 342, Swirl does an additional 130% damage. But if I go to add more Elemental Mastery, push it to 513, he loses about 340 attack. 340 attack gone, but his Swirl does 48% more damage. So we'll go ahead and see if that's worth the trade-off. Having Elemental Mastery alone doesn't make your Swirl stronger. It makes your Swirl that procs the Elemental reaction stronger. Even with a lot of Elemental Mastery, my Swirl is now weaker than having just more attack. But what happens if I immune it and Swirl it? Now does 2,200 damage. So it does 2,200 damage when it procs a elemental reaction. So having more elemental mastery doesn't make his swirl's skills any stronger. These scales off attack and crit damage. So that's something to keep in mind of, and even if they do proc the swirl imbued with another element, that damage still scales off with attack and crit damage, but the element that he swirls to reactivate again, that scales off his elemental mastery. So having more elemental mastery makes that just a tiny bit stronger, versus you rather just have a flat out stronger skill damage with more attack. So this is nice to have, but I would not run Elemental Mastery on a primary stat. But through substats, I would. Again, because his weapon on the string list already gives him 151 Elemental Mastery. And Venti's entire kit is all about proccing those swirls. So you're going to see a ton of elemental reactions happening and a ton of swirls that is just going to be happening, is basically what makes Venti a one-man army when he infuses with elements. So yes, his skill damage would be stronger, but I think other characters does that better, given that his ultimate's multiplier is pretty small. So that's what this build is focused on. So how strong is a Venti on a attack, crit chance, and crit damage build? So if I take away the string list and I go to Amos's bow, which grants me more attack, it's a 5-star weapon too, so it's going to give me way more attack than a 4-star base. So we'll switch to that. Artifacts, same thing, we're still going to be running the Viridescent set, but I'm going to be taking Jean's because her set is all about the attack, crit chance, and crit damage. So I don't have any crit chance or crit damage circlet. I only have attack. So if I switch this to something else, like the crit damage or crit chance, I'm gonna break the set because I don't have any Viridescent goblins. And I want to keep this on a Nemo bonus damage. So we're just still going to be using attack percent. It's okay to run attack on your circlet because if you have below 50% crit chance, I want to say it's okay to run attack circlet to make up the damage that you're basically not critting. So having more attack will catch the fallout of doing non-crits. So if you crit, you'll basically be doing if I crit here, I'm basically going to be doing almost double the damage, but only a 32% rate, which is pretty below average for critting that consistently. So having a attack circlet will kind of balance that out and catch that fallout damage. So he's now at 2,327 attack, no elemental mastery, okay? So no more elemental mastery again. We're just going to be going for more of a crit rate, crit damage build. Again, it's not optimal, but you'll see the difference with no elemental mastery. So we'll try it on a Rune Guard again. So this is with the crit chance, higher attack, and crit damage build. She's now proccing, now critting for 13,000. Non-crits at 6,378. But as far as building goes, if I could switch this out, but if I were to have a crit chance circlet here, that will basically optimize more build to crit more, to do more damage with his base skills. But unfortunately, I don't have, or I have not seen a crit chance or crit damage circlet for the Viridescent rolls. So I'm going to be rolling with an attack percent for now. So that's where if I was to improve his gear, that's what I would work on. The Elemental Mastery is good on its own. Again, Venti's entire kit is all about proccing that Swirl consistently. So having Elemental Mastery there is going to basically help him do all that damage. But again, I would focus more on the crit rate and bring this up so he can deal over 10,000 damage or close to 2,000 damage per slash on his elemental bursts. So on a perfect build for Venti will always be elemental mastery, crit chance, crit damage, and attack percent. As for Hourglass, again, he would go with the attack percentage, Nemo damage for Goblet, and crit rate or crit damage wherever you need for the circlet to do the most damage as possible. And again, having elemental mastery from your subs is only going to make his swirls proc stronger. So that would be my ideal endgame build for Venti. Again, the only thing I need to fix for him right now is just to give him a crit chance circlet, and that will significantly boost his damage up. Take a good showcase to show Venti. Again, it's just these abyss floor that has a ton of monsters that are spawning everywhere in the room that you need to gather them all up. Like Venti just shines better than anybody in the abyss because of that. So we're just gonna be running Venti on the first team, and we'll see. See, look at all the additional elemental damage. That's from the elemental mastery that I'm focusing on. Okay, so the 885 damage is from his base elemental skill. Again, him alone, just by pressing one Q, he already has enough energy to do it all over again. And when he crits with his Elemental Burst, he kicks around 1,775. So if I have the crit chance circlet, I can crit more often. But the swirls that I'm proccing will not crit. Okay? So we're going to go with the attack crit chance crit damage build. So you see how often he's critting now? Just by having like 15% more crit chance. Now his ultimate is back up again. So that's what I meant, just by having, if I could just change his circlet to a crit chance Viridescent piece, I can be doing that much more damage on his skills. On top of that, having the Elemental Mastery, again, I am basically still doing swirl damage, but on this build it's just not as strong. So I hope that helps you decide how you want to build your Venti towards the end game. This is how I'm going to be building my Venti. Again, the only thing I need to change is just change this attack percent circulate to a crit chance, and I will be doing way more consistent DPS. On top of that, I have enough Elemental Mastery, at least above 100%, to proc those swirls. If Venti's kit didn't proc as much swirl as that, I would still go with the attack, crit chance, and crit damage build like every other hero. But again, because Venti's Elemental Burst has the additional elemental damage on top of it when it imbues with it, and he procs the most amount of swirls in the game, you just gotta utilize this Elemental Mastery. So that's my Venti build right there for you. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions, or how you're building your Venti. And yeah, thanks for watching. Till next time.